One.
My dazzling Toastmaster Richa, my sparkling Toastmaster Mayur, my electrifying Toastmaster Deepa, my dashing Toastmaster Joseph sir, my stunning Toastmaster Subi, my scintillating Toastmaster Nazni, my glistering Toastmaster Nadian, my enigmatic Toastmaster Dhwani, my flamboyant Toastmaster Amruta, my puzzling Toastmaster Adarsh. On May 6th, there was a coronation at London, where one king and one queen were coronated. After lots of ceremonials. But prior to that, on 1st of May, at Bangalore International Center, after 3 ceremonies, only one queen was coronated. And who else but our dynamite, electrifying Aparna, Toastmaster Aparna. On this euphoric evening, I, Milind Kurapkar, the Sergeant of Arms, welcome you to the enthralling, enchanting, and engrossing and euphoric meeting number 719 of club number 1254322 of the Speech Weavers Toastmasters Club, Bangalore. The Toastmasters mission of our club is to provide supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Toastmasters have helped people from diverse backgrounds to become more confident communicator and leader. I request you all to uphold the cardinal principles of every Toastmasters meeting. Keep your audio microphone muted at all times. And I give you 5 seconds for that. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And unmute it only when you are invited to speak. Keep your video on at all times unless you are moving in and out of the room. As an encouragement to every role takers and speakers, make sure to applaud them virtually. Role takers and speakers will consciously restrain and use their discretion while expressing their views on sex, politics, religion, and maybe gender too, as the sentiment of audience may get hurt. In welcoming, it's time to welcome our dynamic president, the presiding officer for the evening. He initially started his career as a design engineering for major irrigation projects in Andhra Pradesh. And then he moved to Saudi Arabia as a consultant, where he had the audience with the king of Saudi Arabia. He was busy with electromagnetic projects of desalination plant and water transmission projects for massive projects of $2 billion to $20 billion over a period of 20 years. He's a sports lover. He has been a tennis player, and currently he's the area director of District 1 of Northern Carolina in USA. Please join me in welcoming our beloved president, Toastmaster Joseph Benedict.
Thank you, DTM Milanji, for the amazing introduction. Good evening, Toastmasters, my beloved Toastmasters, and my honorable guests. And especially, I acknowledge Amrita Deshmukh, Dhwani, Toastmaster Aparna, Toastmaster Praneeth, Pranav Poten, and all others. A warm welcome to you for the Speech Weavers Club. As you know that we always have something to take away for our beloved guests. whenever they attend to our meetings, because we have not only educational as well as entertainment and so on. And therefore, I wish that you join to our nostalgic moments today. As usual, I always bring something educational for all of our Toastmasters as well as a guest. I want to speak on the empathy. What is empathy? Seeing with the eyes of another, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another. Morgan Harper Nicholas, he said once, "Let me hold a door for you. I may have never walked a mile in your shoes, but I can see that your shoes are worn and your strength is torn. So let me hold the door for you. After all you have walked through it, it is the least I can do." What a great sentence it is. Empathy is a capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing from within the frame of reference. That is, the capacity to place oneself in another position. There's a three parts in empathy, that is thoughts, feeling, and action. Cognitive empathy is the ability to understand someone else's perspective and what they might be thinking and feeling. Also, the emotive empathy and empathetic action. Let us see what is the difference between empathy and sympathy, because we always use this in a context to some sort of what you call the emphasis of our feelings. Empathy is shown how much compassion and understanding we can give to another. Sympathy is more of a feeling of pity for another. Empathy is our ability to understand how someone feels with sympathy, while sympathy is our relief in not having the same problems. Then how do you show empathy? To show simple ways is listen with the goal to understand. Most of the time, people just need to feel heard. So let us refrain from offering unsolicited advice. Look them in the eye, acknowledge their feelings, open up about a similar experience. Why it is so important? It is because it helps us to understand how others are feeling so we can respond appropriately to the situation. It is typically associated with the social behavior, and there is lots of research showing that greater empathy leads to more helping behavior. We need to practice empathy, work on listening to people without interrupting, pay attention to body language and other types of nonverbal communication. So try to understand even when you don't agree with them. Ask people questions to learn more about them and their lives. Imagine yourself in another person's shoes. That is how you practice empathy. Now it is time for, before I could stop that one, I would just like to give you an example. You likely smile and take the trouble to remember people's names. That is empathy in action. Giving people your full attention in meetings, being curious about their lives and interests, and offering constructive feedback are all empathetic behaviors also. Empathy is an important skill for your personal and professional life. When you are empathetic towards business colleagues and supervisors, you may find it easier to communicate to resolve issues. If you are interested in improving your relationship and professional reputation, learning about empathy is a great way to do so. So it is always important in the workplace and provide examples of empathy in action. Having said that, it is now time for me to introduce our Toastmaster of the day. He's the youngest Vice President Education of our club, very dynamic personality, very active, and the youngest person who is now dealing in business in deep pocket as a director for the company. He's also interested in sports as well as reading books and discovering many things in his life. Let us give a great applause in welcoming our youngest Toastmaster of the Speech Weavers Toastmaster, Adarsh. Over to you. The screen is yours.
Thank you very much for that incredible intro, Toastmaster Joseph. I smell something in this room. I smell nostalgia, to be honest. That is a theme I picked based on something I experienced in the past 1 week. And please bear in mind, of all the people in this room, I'm the least sentimental person of them all. And that's a lie, by the way. All right. So what exactly happened? Why is it that I came up with this theme? Well, it started probably yesterday, was it? Or was it the 9th of May? I think today is 12th of May. On the 9th of May, so what happened was I had to go cast my votes. Unfortunately, not fortunately, I had to go back to my childhood home, the place where I'm supposed to go to cast my votes every year. And luckily for me, I had the opportunity of visiting my childhood home, place where I grew up, the place where I grew up along with my grandparents, most importantly. Now, let me give you an idea of how I was brought up exactly. I was brought up in a family where my parents were always busy. They were always working. Sometimes they'd come back home at 9 o'clock. Sometimes they'd come back home at 10 o'clock. Sometimes I would not even see them at all. And during a time like this, obviously, my grandparents made a massive difference. And I grew up with them in their home, a home that is over 40, 50 years old at this point, not so young whatsoever. It's twice my age, or probably a little bit more than twice my age. And that's exactly why I came up with this theme called nostalgia. Now, I'd like to quickly ask one of you in this room, what does this theme remind you of? Now, I see a lot of smiling faces in this room. I see some people working very hard because I understand that we have a lot of speeches today. I can see that a lot of people are looking down, trying to write something down for their speeches. But I'm going to quickly I'm going to quickly point a finger at those people that don't have speeches today. Maybe starting off with Kamal. I see Kamal. Kamal, what does the word nostalgia remind you of exactly? Because that is the theme of today's meeting.
So, if talking about the word, it directly reminds me of my school, and it's been quite some time now having those wonderful days that used to be earlier. So no thinking of the work, no boundaries. So it was a limitless thing. So I think today morning only yesterday, day before yesterday, I attended a meeting, and there the topic was like, how do you cherish your childhood memories? So I was just thinking about that, and so going into the bus, so I just used to close my eyes and see to the sun, and seeing those wonderful orange sun behind my eyes, like eyelids. So that's something that gives me a nostalgic feeling always whenever I'm thinking. And maybe wherever I'm visiting, maybe on a tour or something like that, I always try to close my eyes and see the sun behind that. So it's a different feeling altogether. It's quite soothing to me. So I think that is one thing that clicks to my mind when talking about nostalgia.
I think that is very, very important. By the way, thank you very much for your participation. I think that makes a big difference. I think the moment we start thinking about nostalgia, the first thing that comes to our mind is our childhood or our school or those things. Now, quickly, I'd like to hear from the others. I think maybe starting with Richa. Richa, in one word, what does the word nostalgia remind you of? One word, not 10 words, one word. School?
Not school, my first job.
Your first job, all right. Nazneen, what does that remind you of?
I don't become nostalgic. I live in the moment.
Oh no, I think I probably have brought up the wrong theme for today's meeting. Sorry for that. Kindly, Zoom Master, kindly mute Nazneen so that she doesn't mess up the theme. Nadia, what does this remind you of?
Yeah, actually, there used to be a time when we joined Cisco a while ago, right? We used to sometimes joke about your age is my experience and things like that. And today, if I look at when some of the freshers are joining, they are less than, they are around 21 years old, and my experience is more than 22 years. So that has become a reality without even realizing in just a moment, right? Definitely, that's a nostalgic moment for me.
I think that's truly amazing, without a doubt. I think looking at all of you in this room, I'm pretty confident that there was a time where you were children, or there was a time where you probably joined your first ever Toastmasters meeting. You had the opportunity of sitting down, and you had the opportunity of listening to some of the best speakers come out and present themselves. And today, here you are. You're going to be delivering speeches, and you're going to see a few people joining in, a few guests joining in to listen to you, and maybe 1 year down the line, they'll be the one speaking here, and there'll be somebody else joining to listen to them. And on that note, I'd like to talk about Toastmasters in a few words. Toastmasters is an international non-profit organization where leaders are made. Yes, it's also a place for one to develop their public speaking and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. And Speech Weavers as a club has been around for over 15 years. And we've had the opportunity and we've had the privilege of nurturing a lot of speakers. We've had the privilege of speaking and teaming up with a lot of speakers. And this is exactly where I've been brought up. And this is where a lot of people, including Toastmaster Joseph, Toastmaster Deepa, Toastmaster DDM Millen, and a lot of others were brought up here at this very own club. And there are so many other clubs across the world that do the same exact thing. So I urge you to continue attending meetings. I urge you to continue taking up roles and have the most fun you possibly can. A Toastmasters meeting is typically consists of a prepared speech session, a table topic session, and an evaluation session. But today's meeting is a bit different. We don't have any table topics, but instead we have a Toastmaster of the day that talks about nostalgia, and we'll be giving you opportunities to speak. And then we'll have prepared speeches, only prepared speeches, a total of 5 prepared speeches, and a bunch of evaluations that will appear. And without any further ado, I'd like to quickly get a few introductions before we get started, starting with our timer for today's meeting, Toastmaster Shrubi. Toastmaster Shrubi, I hope you're there. Shrubi, I hope you can hear us. All right, maybe Shrubi needs a bit of time. Then we'll move to Toastmaster Richa to introduce herself as the grammarian for today's meeting. We don't have a general evaluator, so I'll be taking up the task of introducing the tag team. Over to you, Toastmaster Richa, to introduce yourself. Richa, you have to unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thanks, Adarsh, Toastmaster Adarsh. Hello, everyone. Today, I'll be playing the role of grammarian in today's Toastmaster huddle. As per my role, I'll keep eye on mispronounced words. As we have a ritual of having a word of the day in every Toastmasters meeting, so the word of the day of today's Toastmaster huddle is take my hands now, you are the cause of my euphoria. So the word of today is euphoria, which means an extremely strong feeling of happiness. I was, for an example, I was in state of euphoria all day. Another example would be the news sparked a wave of euphoria across the country, like that. So if anybody is using this word euphoria in their speeches, then just give them a thumbs up to cheer them up. Back to you, Toastmaster Adarsh. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Toastmaster Richa. What a very, very interesting way to sort of introduce us to the word of the day. I think most of us have not been using the word of the day at the meetings for quite some time. So I think that will probably give them the necessary encouragement to use the word of the day. Make sure to use the word of the day, euphoria. And Richa, I would suggest you to put up the word of the day on the chat so that all of us can see what it is and use it in our speeches today. I would like to call on the timer for today's meeting. I hope Shrubi is here. Shrubi is still not here. Okay, then I'd like to call on Toastmaster Deepa. Yes, Toastmaster Shrubi, you have to introduce yourself as the timer for today's meeting. Shubhi, I think we have lost you. Okay, we'll quickly move to Toastmaster Deepa, who will be using Moodly to evaluate our R's and Ums in today's meeting. So over to you, Deepa, to tell us what Moodly is about in a few words.
Good evening, everybody here at Speech Weavers. We have a different R counter in our meetings nowadays, and it's AI. Moodly has taken over the R counter role because we often find ourselves preventing ourselves from counting the R's and not enjoying the speeches. So we delegate the task to Moodly. Moodly is going to give a report on each and every crutch word that you use, including all the speakers, and provides data with utmost precision. The analysis will be shortly given by Moodly after the meeting is over, so the report will be shared through a link on the WhatsApp groups. So please please open the link and look at which are your favorite crutch words and how you can overcome them. Of course, the method to overcome R's and Ums is to just make use of the pause and to rehearse them. Because the less rehearsed we are, the more R's comes up, and the more deliberate we take our pausing, the R's reduce. So that's from my side as our counter. Over to the Toastmaster today, Adarsh.
Thank you for that, Toastmaster Deepa. And you heard that. The link will be posted on the WhatsApp group for you to click on to check out the R counter report. And next time, I'm going to start off with the prepared speech session in today's meeting. But before that, I would like to request Toastmaster Nazneen if she can take over as the timer in the short term to replace Shubhi, because Shubhi is having a very difficult time with her connectivity right now.
Fine, Adarsh.
Thank you for that, Nazneen. A round of applause for Toastmaster Nazneen for taking up the role of a timer. Our first speaker for today's meeting, but before I call on the first speaker, I'd like to call on the evaluator for the first speaker, Toastmaster Mayur. Toastmaster Mayur, can you describe the project objectives of Speaker One's speech?
Thank you, Toastmaster Adarsh. Good evening, fellow Toastmaster and guests. The purpose of this project is for the member to practice using a story within a speech or giving a speech that is a story. And I will be noting down his, I will be evaluating his speech on completion of his project, focusing on using stories in a speech and creating a speech that is a story. The member may use any type of story, personal, well-known fiction, or one of his or his own creation. All the best to the speaker. Over to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Yes, thank you very much, Toastmaster Mayur. You heard that. Our first speaker for today is one of the best Toastmasters we have in place, and it is with great euphoria that I'd like to introduce you to distinguished Toastmaster Milind Kulakar. He is someone that comes with a wealth of experience in the Toastmasters world. He is a passionate mentor for a lot of speakers from within the club and outside the club, and he is someone that's going to entertain us with his speech in today's meeting. The title of his speech is Hooray, I Can. Hooray, I Can. DTM Milind, over to you.
Come in. Yes. Second division, 487 marks. Why, you fool? Why didn't you get first class? This is what Father Siluwai told me. And I was screaming and jumping head over heel in joy in the principal's room, chest thumping. I was in a state of euphoria, ecstatic, hysteric. I rushed out of the room and continued chest thumping, screaming. I had every reason to be in a state of euphoria, ecstatic and hysteric, as I was the odd man out of all the students outside the father's room. All those students had passed in first division, and I had passed in respectable second division. All the students outside were from Father Siluwai's St. Lawrence Boys High School, Kolkata, while I was a student of National High School, Kolkata. Then how come I was in the principal room of St. Lawrence High School? Well, I was a student of St. Lawrence High School in class 6 and class 7. In class 6, I was promoted after re-examination as I had failed in one subject. In class 7, I failed in multiple subjects. And instead of repeating again in class 7, I opted to go back to my old school, National High School, where I felt home, as I was a student of National High School while I was in class 5 before shifting to St. Lawrence School. Failure in exams during school, re-examination, is nothing new to me or to my parents. Me and my parents used to get delighted if I was promoted in first attempt. Thus, I couldn't believe that I could pass in first attempt in the secondary board exam, and that too with respectable second division. It was just too much for me to digest. Even to this day, I can vividly recall that summer day of 1977 when I sheepishly knocked the principal's room of St. Lawrence High School, Father Siluvoy, pleading him to tell me the results, and then came out triumphantly, roaring like a lion, checks beating with the best news of my life, even to this day. So the learning which I had from that, even a mediocre student, hooray, can pass exams with respectable marks in their very first attempt. Passing in first attempt, the board exam, boosted my confidence, my self-confidence. And on my very own, I selected commerce schools for my higher secondary. In commerce, there was no algebra, no arithmetics, no geometry, no trigonometry, no physics, no chemistry, no biology. And I sailed through respectively in second division in higher secondary board exams. For my graduation, I opted for Bachelor of Commerce with honors. Unfortunately, in Bachelor of Commerce, there were subjects like statistics, economics, mathematics, calculus, trigonometry. And obviously, I did very badly in my Part 1 university exams due to economics and statistics. Thus, the only way out to graduate was to do something exceptional in Part 2. I decided to join private coaching classes for mathematics and advanced accounting. The personal coaching helped me to score very high marks in mathematics, 77, and in advanced accountancy, which helped me in the overall aggregate to sail through the graduation as a Bachelor of Commerce with honors. The learnings, hooray, even a mediocre student by personal coaching can succeed. For my professional course, I opted for company secretary course of Institute of Company Secretaries. Why? There was absolutely no mathematics, no statistics, no algebra, no calculus, no trigonometry, no economics. The only subjects were all law subjects and a bit of accountancy and cost accountancy. Now the challenge was how to remember these legal provisions. I started doing joint studies with my fellow students, most of them senior to me and already employed. I, being a full-time student, would go through the legal provisions beforehand, and during our joint studies would parrot out the legal provisions and explain to them as per my understanding and get corrected and learn a lot. The learnings, hooray, even as a mediocre student, I can teach others. And on my passing these most difficult professional exams, maybe after multiple attempts, I proudly rang the doorbell of my school principal, Nayar sir, and handed him a packet of sweets to tell the good news. I was amused to see the expression of utter disbelief on his face. Next day, Principal Nayak cross-checked with my father in our Lasdown market, where they used to often meet, whether indeed I had passed that professional exam of Institute of Company Secretary or just passed the vocational course of private secretary. This professional course of company secretaries and the additional qualification as a graduate in law helped me to have a fulfilling life even to this date. The moral of the story: even a mediocre student can have a fulfilling life. Over to Toastmaster.
A round of applause to DTM Milind Kulakar. What an incredible speech. Thank you very much for that highly euphoric speech. Moving to our next speaker in today's meeting. Before I call on the next speaker, I'd like to call on the evaluator. And the evaluator for the next speaker is Toastmaster Nadian Selvan. I would like to hear from you on what the project objectives are for Toastmaster Joseph's speech. Over to you.
Thank you, Adarsh. The purpose of the project is for the member to observe his time management patterns. The speech may be about a time management exercise he undertook. It may be humorous, informational, or any type based on a member's choosing. And it should not be just a mere report of managing time. Back to you, Adarsh, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you very much for that, Toastmaster Nadia. We are looking forward to your evaluation. Our next speaker in today's meeting is the president of the Speech Weavers Toastmasters Club. And he's been the president of this club before. He's also the area director at District 117, North Carolina. He is here with an incredible speech, which is titled Time is Money. Time is money. Toastmaster Joseph, over to you.
Time is money is an aphorism that is claimed to have originated in Advice for a Tradesman by Benjamin Franklin. He was the Speaker of Pennsylvania House of Representatives. This was appeared in the book called George Fisher's book in the year 1748. This is a piece of advice that how wisely you use the time. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine how true it is. Suppose you miss a plane, yes, you are only 2 minutes late. All your, what you call the attempt of going to a place, achieving something, or writing a contract, getting it to done is all lost because you missed the plane. You cannot go again for another 24 hours if you are going to USA. So this is the disadvantage, how to use a time in a wiser way. In my personal experience, I would like to narrate my own time management of as a consultant for the huge project costing $2 billion, which I had an euphoria. Planning, scheduling, and also handing over. Here, first of all, the project calls for a big layout and also for a procurement of all equipments, infrastructure ready, and also the execution of the project. These are a framework where you set up so that starting from A to the starting from B, where you have to hand over, all the middle exercises have to be done on time. So we draw a scheduling for any project. right from starting from the excavation. It is always the civil work that matters most in any project. Therefore, it starts with the infrastructure, and then again the build-up of the foundations, and then procurement of the material is side by side done, and also the other manufacturing if there is a requirement. And then again, the logistic time that is taking up also calls for a time. These are all most relevant things that in any project that takes care of. Sometimes due to unforeseen activities, it so happened that there was an earthquake in Japan. Thereby, they could not send the boilers. So what we do is also a sort of program, which is what is known as the time frame, which could be used for another activity, so that there should not be any negligence in the time. So what we call critical path method. This is applicable for all projects as a standby in order to complete the project. Therefore, one has to really take care. It is a teamwork where each one has to review their responsibilities, whether the project has to be progressing on time in all the actions that has been scheduled in a big graph of scheduling timetable that gives you from first action to the handing over. Not only that one, even after handing over also, you will have to have what is known as the testing of the machines, running of the air conditions, instrumentation, SCADA, and safety. All these are each and every area of responsibility has to take place. This has to go with the time. You cannot just simply start safety after operation of any machine, even the generator. You have to check the safety aspect, whether the generator could function under this particular condition of time. A time frame has been allocated for each and every activity in the project. And that is where one has to be more careful in the time management. I was so happy also, as I said, I had euphoria, where I have successfully carried out every area that is responsible to have my way of taking the time. At the same time, coordination with mechanical instrumentation, electrical, and also what is known as the safety. These kind of management of time is vital for any project, because the client will penalize the contractor even if it is a day delay, because the contract has been signed in a specific way that there will be what is known as allowance will be given for unfortunate situations like earthquake. We have given them 3 months of time because earthquake, the manufacturing of boilers were stopped. So one has to really think that what way the time management has to be done so that the project is completed and successfully handed over to the client, whereas as a consultant, I'm more responsible in doing this and fulfilling the client's requirement. And that is where I always tell, time is money. Therefore, you have to be more careful. If Alfred Nobel would have been there, he would have given a Nobel Prize for this one. But this took place before the Nobel. Therefore, always bear in mind, time is money. Over to you.
Time is money. Time is money. Time is certainly money. And while keeping that in mind, I would actually like to thank Toastmaster Joseph for his speech and quickly move to the next speech of today's meeting. The next speech will be delivered by Toastmaster Deepa. But before that, I would like to call on her evaluator from the Gabby's Toastmasters Club, Toastmaster Aparna, to state the project objectives of Toastmaster Deepa's speech. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Adarsh. My target speaker today is attempting her level 2 project in her path effective coaching. Her project is understanding your communication style. Timer, please note this is a 5 to 7 minute speech. The purpose of this project is for the member to learn about different communication styles and identify her primary style. The purpose is also for the member to share the impact of her style on others. With that, I wish my target speaker all the very best. And back to you, Toastmaster Adarsh.
Thank you very much for that, Toastmaster Aparna. The next speaker in today's meeting, I don't have any words to introduce Toastmaster Deepa. Toastmaster Deepa is someone that is fondly known to the Speech Weavers community as the tormentor, in the context of me, the tormentee, as she calls me. That's because I'm very annoying. That's what I've come to understand after a couple of years that I've been at Toastmasters. Toastmaster Deepa comes with a lot of experience as a public speaker. She is a vocal variety expert. She is someone that loves the art of impromptu speaking. She loves to walk. That's what she told me. That is, she walks like 2 kilometers from her house to the venue. That was back when we were having our meetings offline, but obviously everything is online now, so she doesn't walk at all. So Toastmaster Deepa, the title of your speech is Display the Best Colors, You Are a Communication Chameleon. I repeat the title, Display the Best Colors, You Are a Communication Chameleon. Over to you, the stage is yours.
Have you all seen a chameleon? In Bangalore, there used to be a lot of chameleons, by the way. And I remember being intrigued by the display of colors. They would turn green, a tinge darker green near the leaves. When they went to the bark of the tree, they would turn browner. And what I want to say to you all today is that you are also a chameleon, especially as a communicator. Now, what do I mean by a chameleon in the context of communication? There's said to be 4 types of communication styles. The first one is direct communication styles. I'm going to explain these styles with examples so that you understand what each of these means. So now, direct communication style is someone who has a very focused approach in communication. They're impatient. They want to get the task done. Now, there's a friend of mine in my WhatsApp, and the status message of his reads, "Don't hire me, get to the point." Now, this person is predominantly a direct communicator. Now, you see, direct communicators want to get the work done. They're very efficient. They don't have times for anything else but getting the task done. Now, getting to the depth of what a direct communicator means, just even you are a direct communicator, by the way. Let me give you an example. Let's say you are in the kitchen with the help of yours. You don't go and ask, how was your day yesterday? But you just get to the point and you say, chop these vegetables, turn on the heat for 15 minutes, keep these ready, I will be back in 15 minutes. Those are the only instructions that you give, perhaps, at that point in time kitchen. So in that situation, what you are displaying is called direct communication style. The second communication style is supportive communication style, which, by the way, is my dominant communication style when I took up the questionnaire in level 2. Now, what is supportive communication style is that I spend a lot of time in developing relationships, trust, and display loyalty, and which means sometimes I have a difficulty in maintaining time. I don't get into the specifics like a direct communicator, and I can be indecisive. So understanding my dominant communication styles made me realize that, hey, there are places where I can actually use the other styles, which I am not using more often. When I was president of my club here at Speech Weavers, I would predominantly use supportive communication styles in a few meetings, and I switched to direct communication style when I had to monitor whether the task is done. So a couple of meetings, when the initial meetings, I would make sure that the relationship is built between my ExCom members, that they're heard, that there's trust, their opinions are heard, and a consensus is built. But subsequently, when there's an action items list prepared, I would quickly get into the task and find out if this is done. VPPR is the poster published. That's the only communication. Yes, no. If not, when next? So this is the only communication I had at times. So there was a balance of direct and supportive communication styles when I became a leader. And the third communication style is initiative communication style. Now, this is very common in Toastmasters. The very first meeting, if you remember the very first meeting, you would have met members who made you felt welcome, who spoke enthusiastically, who got to make you share, speak with you, and generally rub off some enthusiasm as a communicator. And those, my dear friends, whether it be the president or some fellow members, those are initiative communication, displaying initiative communication style. And it's a very important trait, especially when we have to build a rapport. And this is something that comes third in the list of communication styles that I have. The last one, which is with the communication style that is showcased, is the analytical communication style. Now, what is analytical communication style? It's primarily the mind. These people work with the mind. They don't work with the heart, or their head dominates the heart. They want facts, figures to arrive at a decision, and they do not invest in socializing. So this is when the VP membership comes to you with, he has completed the initiative communication style. He's presented an image of what Toastmasters is. And then now he has to convince you to join the club, and he has to present the facts of what Toastmasters as a brand is, where they're present, how many clubs, what do you get out of it? Are there any certifications? Are there, what are the timings? What is the next thing that I can aim for after I complete a level? All of those data-driven facts is what an analytical speaker looks forward to. So sometimes we will meet these people who have these dominant approaches to communication, understanding who they are, how they work, and suitably applying different communication styles at these situations makes us a very efficient communicator. So Toastmasters and friends, do you agree with me now that we are a combination of these styles and not just standalone one communication style, but we do have some dominant traits, and therefore we can choose to be a chameleon, a communicator chameleon. We can choose to show the green. We can choose to be more dominant, direct in certain situations. We can choose to be supportive in certain situations. And that is the beauty of communications. Communication is not simple. It's not as simple as one communication style in every situation. It's a combination and how much of it. And therefore, I urge you all to take up the questionnaire in level 2 and find out what your dominant communication style is. By that, you will understand what your strengths are, what you might have to work on more deliberately, and you can display your best colors as a communicator once you realize your communication styles. Thank you.
A quick round of applause to all our speakers, including Toastmaster Deepa so far. Those were an incredible set of speeches. Yes, you're a communication chameleon. A new term for me to remember. Thank you very much for that incredible speech. And then moving to our speaker number 4. Before I call on the speaker number 4, I'd like to call on the evaluator for speaker number 4. I totally forgot who the evaluator was. Yes, how could I forget? From the Gabby's Toastmasters Club, I'd like to call on Dhwani to introduce herself as the evaluator and obviously state the project objectives of Toastmaster Deepa's speech. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Adarsh. So my target speaker is Toastmaster Nazneen, and today she's attempting her level 5 project 1, which is high performance leadership. First speech. The purpose of this project is for the member to apply her leadership and planning knowledge to develop a project plan, organize a guidance committee, and implement the plan with the help of a team. The purpose of the first speech is for the member to introduce his or her plan and vision. Timer, please note the time will be 5 to 7 minutes. All the best to my target speaker. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Dwani, for that. Our speaker is someone that I feel is very enthusiastic. She comes with a wide range of skills. She comes with a very wide skill set or repertoire. And I think she brings so much to the store for any club that she goes to. She was a part of a Bangalore Toastmasters Club before, and now she's a part of Speech Weavers Toastmasters Club, and she's also a part of the Chapter 1 Mentees Toastmasters Club, which is the first ever Toastmasters Club. She is someone that I would say has everything. She has literally everything, and the title of her speech perfectly encapsulates what she has been at Speech Weavers and what she's going to talk about. The title of her speech is Synergy. I'd like to call on Toastmaster Nazneen. Toastmaster Nazneen, Synergy, Toastmaster Nazneen. Over to you.
A leader is one when he or she does something and makes sure the goal is attained and then says that the work is done and gives the credit to his employees and just stands by and relaxes and feels that, yes, you have done it. Good evening, Toastmasters and dear guests. I was an SAP FICO consultant. SAP systems, applications, and products. Definitely, we in SAP, what I was good at was finance. That's why I took up FICO. FICO is finance and controlling together. We had a very big project in hand. And the first thing that was necessary was to identify the members and our team so that we can improvise on that and implement our plan. First, we needed an SAP FICO consultant, 2 members, that was including me, and then we needed an ABAP man. What is ABAP? Advanced Business Applications Program. So, and also a person who is really good in migration from finance to control. We formed the team and then we formed what is called a committee comprising of the client and us together so that the project moves on smoothly and you don't have to have any kind of hitches in between. Project started with a bang. Yes, preparation, blueprint, configuration, again, final preparation, and the last one, go live and support. We started off with a preparation, impeccable. We acquired all the things that was needed to start with the project from our clients who were overseas. Then was the blueprint. The blueprint was awesome as the clients and the committee members were happy with what was going on. Third was configuration. Configuration, you have to do it right from company core to the last, that is migration from finance to control. So that also was fine. And then fourth, that was final preparation. Now, here was the glitch. We started training these people who are called the end users. What is an end user? An end user is a person who actually reaps the benefit of what we do. So what he did was, there was one person who had the audacity to say, I am not interested and I am not going to learn. We were all speechless. What are we going to tell the clients and the committee members? We spoke to the clients and the committee members. The committee members just pushed us against the wall and washed their hands off it. So did the clients. They said, it is your responsibility. Make sure that he definitely goes and learns everything. We were speechless. We did everything that we could to make this person who was so adamant to actually start learning. We made pictorial pictures, took screenshots of every step of how the coding is being done. And then we also made sure that we had training for him separately. But he wouldn't budge. One day, I just realized that I just craned my neck after the training session and saw on his laptop, he was actually seeing those pictorial pictures that I had given to him. Yes, one ray of hope. Yes, yes, yes. We can get him out of his cocoon. So I spoke to my team and went about going with this. The next day, after everyone left, he came to me and he asked me, how do I go about with these things? I explained to him how to go about with it. And further, he never ever said that I don't want to learn. He participated in the learning. And that was the euphoric moment for our whole team. So I gave the credit to my team, because a leader always gives the credit to the team rather than taking the credit himself or herself. Therefore, we finished our final preparation, we went live, and we started supporting. We were in the euphoric moment of this world. It was the people just remember that, yes, every day, whatever challenge you get is a gift, because it gets the best out of you. And that was the best thing that got out of us, that challenges can come in any form and shape and any time in life. So be prepared. Guess what? We had a party and we were enjoying, and a ticket was raised. And imagine who that person was. None other than the person who was not ready to learn about the project that we did. We said, oh, it's okay, this is life. We took up the challenge, closed the ticket which was raised, and till now we remember that, as Bill Gates always says, that the future employers will empower the employees. Over to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
A round of applause to Toastmaster Nazneen for an incredible speech on synergy. You're certainly a team player, without a doubt. I think you have a lot of people here that would testify of what I just said there. Wonderful speech. Thank you very much for that. Moving to our next speaker in today's meeting. Our next speaker is a really, really great man. He is the Vice President Education of the Speech Weavers Toastmasters Club. He is playing the role of a Toastmaster today, as well as a speaker in today's meeting. He is the founder and CEO of a company called Finhances. I would like to call on a Toastmaster Adarsh to present his speech entitled Awkward Conversations. But before that, I'd like to call on the evaluator for his speech. I'd like to call on Toastmaster Amrita to state the project objectives.
Good evening, everyone. I will be evaluating the speech given by Toastmaster Adarsh. Please note, Toastmaster Adarsh is giving level 1, project 1 from Pathway Engaging Humor. And please note, time is 5 to 7 minutes. All the very best, Toastmaster Adarsh.
Thank you very much for that, Toastmaster Amrita. I would like to call on the speaker Toastmaster Adarsh, the speech title, Awkward Conversations. A timer, I'm starting in 3 seconds. Hey Adarsh, what's up? How are you doing? Well, nothing much. So how are your parents? How are they doing? It's been so long since I last saw you. Parents, they are just fine. They're probably at home or maybe they're working, I'm not sure. So Adarsh, how's work? I think work is always exciting, isn't it? Work, challenging, yes. Pretty challenging, but just fine. So Adarsh, what do you eat for lunch? Lunch? Not able to think. I think same old food. Same old food. I don't think I ate anything different. Well, all right. So Adarsh, how's your sister? Sister? I don't have a sister. Oh, that's awkward. Never mind. Oh, those awkward conversations. How many of you have had those awkward conversations? I'm sure you've met your friends from the past or your family members from the past. Yes, I see Aparna raising a hand. Aparna, I'd like to call you on to ask you about your awkward conversation. What was that one awkward conversation that you just cannot stop thinking about in your head? Because the first thing that comes to my mind is the time when I bumped into my friend. And that's the scenario that I just enacted there. Aparna, what do you think?
So I'm the queen of awkwardness. People who know me know it because I have a knack for getting into these awkward situations, like terribly awkward that the other person gets embarrassed. And only then I realize, oh my God, I'm wrong. And then I get embarrassed. So I keep having these, okay, day in and day out, not one, many. The latest was yesterday, I was out for a walk. I go for a jog in the evening. So it's kind of dark. And I saw this man walking a dog, okay? And I go screaming, hey, Venkat! He looks at me and he says, hi, like this. And I'm like, what? You already forgot me. And then I started walking towards him. It was someone completely different. It was not Venkat at all. And then I was like so embarrassed. And I said, I'm sorry, sir. I thought it's someone else. And I walked off. So this keeps happening to me every time. So I think awkwardness and me, we go hand in hand.
So yes, all of us have been there. And to tell you about one of my experiences from when I was a kid, by the way, in the neighborhood that I used to live in, there were a lot of shady neighbors. There were a lot of neighbors that had a very, very shady look. And one of the first neighbors that come to my mind is a person that actually lives with his parents. He's working, he's living with his parents, and he has a dog that just wouldn't stop barking. And he had a mother whose tongue never quit. He was working somewhere, but I never knew where he worked, to be very honest. I think for the many years that I lived there, I never even bothered to ask because I felt so awkward even facing him. But somehow, some way, my dad used to talk to him all the time. I don't know how, but my dad managed to strike a very good friendship with him. And they even sort of went out a few times that I still don't understand how, to be very honest. But yes, all of the conversations I had with him is so awkward. And one of those awkward conversations that occurred was when I saw him going out with 3 different women on 3 different occasions. That's right, 3 different women on 3 different occasions across 3 days. And I was puzzled. I was so puzzled that I felt the need to go to him and ask him, hey, how many wives do you actually have? And his response to me was, how many wives do I have? I just have one. I'm about to divorce her now. Now that came as a shock. And not so long later, I went back to my dad and asked him, hey dad, it seems our neighbor is so shady that he goes out with 3 different women on 3 different days. And when I go to him and ask him, how many wives you have? He says, I only have one wife and I'm about to divorce. And my dad was so quick to tell me that, Adarsh, are you a fool? He does not have 3 wives. The 3 women that he went out with on 3 different days where his cousin, his sister, the third person was his wife. And that is the lady that he's about to divorce. And guess what? He was with his sister and his cousin because he needed some level of consolation because he was going through a divorce. Now that is awkward, to say the least. Now, where would something like this even stem from? How come we have these awkward conversations with people? Where does this stem from? Well, the answer to that question is pretty simple. It stems from a lack of understanding of the other person. It only comes when you don't know the other person very well. Now, how do you deal with a situation like this? Well, you have to exercise your humor. It's very important that you try to lighten the mood. Maybe you can probably talk to him about how his car is shinier than his bald head, or his cat is better looking than his wife that he's about to divorce. Okay, no, okay. Please don't do that. I think that's going to land you in a world of trouble. But do ensure to use a tinge of humor in your everyday life. And also don't forget to be empathetic. I think that is the second thing for you to remember. Don't forget to be empathetic. Try to understand who the other person is before you even go strike up a conversation with them. Or if you don't know who that person is, then please be quiet and try to understand who that person actually is. Trust me, conversations are only awkward for as long as you don't know the other person. Once you get to know the other person, that makes a world of difference, and it gives you the opportunity of striking up a very, very good conversation. I request all of you in this very room to go back to that one person that you find very, very awkward and try to understand who that person is, and then try to find out whether that person is awkward or not. Over to you. Oh, over to me, by the way. Thank you very much for that, Toastmaster Adarsh. That is it for our prepared speech session in today's meeting. A round of applause to all our speakers, Toastmaster Deepa, Toastmaster Naslin, distinguished Toastmaster Milind Kulapkar, Toastmaster Joseph, and to all our evaluators, because now we're going to quickly move on to the evaluation session in today's meeting. And by the way, we have a marathon of evaluations. So I'd like to call on our first evaluator who will be evaluating DTM Milind's speech, Toastmaster Mayur. Toastmaster Mayur, over to you.
Good evening once again, everyone. It's hooray, you did it. It's invariably euphoric to listen to your speech all the time. The way you construct them, DTM Milind. The way you started about your speech as like how is you were in your schools, like in Kolkata, St. Lawrence, and how you performed there. Afterwards, you talk about another national schools in which you were there, and then onward you were speaking about your college as well, where you talk about your degree and how you perform in your degree, and then took up the company secretary role, right? And did joint studies, and then in the end you talk about the Nair sir, how you gave him the streets, and that's how you live a mediocre student life, even though certain people like me and those who are not that much good in studies, or you can say not excellent but good, that's okay. So we are like that, but I didn't failed in any exam so far in my schools or college, and comparatively, but your speech was very good in the way you constructed your speech, and I really enjoyed your uses of good words like and phrases, head over heel, and certain other uses of words. If I would like to tell you about where you can work on is you missed a bit of clarity initially when you started. I was not able to understand what you are going to say, what you are going to talk about. So that might be because of suspense you want to create in the first 1 or 2 line. That could be the reason. And there was some clarity issue I was facing. Maybe it was because of internet, or your voice was not coming clearly. So that could be the issue. Another thing I would like to tell you is work on little bit of your light and camera as well. So the thing, it would be very easy to understand and grab your attention to all the audiences as well. I would also like to tell you that if you could have engaged well with the audience, that would be very well work for your speech. And with that, I would like to tell you that you have excelled in your speech, and I would like to listen to you in your upcoming speeches. Over to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you very much for that excellent evaluation, Toastmaster Mayur. I think that's something for PT and Milind to go into and understand how we can get better, because he's already an incredible speaker. Now for our next evaluation, and this is upon request, then I'm going to take up, I'm going to ask Toastmaster Dwani to come up and evaluate Toastmaster Nazneen's speech, because she has something to attend to very quickly. So I'd like to call on Toastmaster Dwani to evaluate Toastmaster Nazneen's speech.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster of the Day, and to my target speaker. I must say that the moment you started and the moment you were speaking about your plan and your what did you do with your team and how did you motivate the person, that shows that what kind of leadership you possess, and you are a servant leader. So a great job on that. I liked how you started your speech, and then you were also explaining certain terminologies like SAP and certain words around it, which is very technical and people cannot understand those words. So I liked how you were explaining the meaning of it, and then you were going and delivering your speech so that we have a much clear idea on what you actually have to speak. So a great take on that as well. I liked how you were using your hand gestures so that you can connect with the audience. Our body language plays a very vital role when it comes to communicating virtually and outside, offline as well. But since we're in a virtual setting, to have that human connect is difficult. So I liked how you were using your hand gestures time to time. I must say you have a really great voice, and you were using your certain high pitch and you were using certain modulations in your speech to show some excitement, show some happiness, and how you were peeping and looking at the other person. I liked how you were using all those certain things in your speech, as it brings the cherry on top in the speech and elevates your speech. To things that what you can work on and to elevate your speech to your next level, I felt that when you were speaking a sentence, I felt there was sudden break in the flow of what you were speaking. For example, you were saying in this manner, that was needed to start. You see, the flow was, in a very robotic manner, and the rate of speech was a kind of breaking. So you may want to work on that. The second thing is, if you could have given a much detailed explanation, or if you could have dwelled more on the plan and how you actually worked around it, and how that person perceived it, and how it went well, and how it came to your favor, it would have created a much better impact, and people would have remembered your speech, because it was towards a place where you and your team motivated that person who did not want to actually work. And that is a very big thing to do. So if you could have dwelled more on it, it would have been really great. Overall, to challenge yourself, I would want you to, though you had a flow, but then I want you to practice more to get a much better flow while you are talking, and you don't get those sudden breaks while in the sentence that you speak. So to sum it up, I liked your hand gestures. You have a great voice. You are a servant leader, and you were explaining your content pretty well. To what you can work on is your rate of speech and a bit more on the content part. Overall, great speech. Back to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you very much for that, Toastmaster Dwani. That was a very, very polite and insightful evaluation, something for Toastmaster Nazneen to look back on. And for our next evaluator, now I'll go back to the structure of calling on the evaluator number 2, Toastmaster Nadia, to evaluate Toastmaster Joseph's speech. Over to you.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day, Adarsh. Hi all, and particularly Joseph sir. I was in a state of euphoria throughout your speech. The important thing is the way you can open your speech. There can be different ways. You can give a startling statement, say, you all will be dead in a decade. And then when people are startled, you can talk about the climate change and so on, right? But one very impactful and interesting way is to give a quote. What best way to start than give a very great quote, which is kind of authentic, and start with that. And you also went directly to the topic. That was very good. Instead of taking some time around beating around bushes, you just hit the bullseye and went directly to the topic. I would rate your speech with 3 A's. First A is authentic. Second A, anecdotes. Third A, how accurate it was, accuracy. First, the quote with which you opened was very authentic. Then the project you talked about was also a real-time project, and it was your personal experience. So that clearly tells the authenticity you have to speak on the topic. So there are multiple elements, authenticity elements to it. Coming to anecdotes, when you gave the first clear example where how 2 minutes delay can even lose your contract, that's a very great anecdote. When you talked about Nobel Prize, right, it could have been given for this idea. That is definitely a very good anecdote. And yeah, there are more such things, anecdotes here, and very good anecdotes here. Coming to accuracy, you focused on a lot of details. You started with giving the cost of the project, right? That also definitely kept the interest hooked for the audience. And you gave very clear expectations for the project and so on. So with the 3A rating, the speech is very good. Is there anything you can improve upon? Definitely, there are many things you did a very good job, but can you challenge yourself to do more? The answer is yes. One is voice modulation. For this speech, your voice modulation is perfect. Can you challenge yourself to vary your voice? Yes. Hand gestures, you had very good hand gestures. We didn't miss anything. But can you challenge yourself to use your hand gestures to a better effect? Like all these areas, all these are, or each area. In those cases, can you use your hand gestures better? The answer is yes. Awesome speech, euphoric. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you very much for that incredible evaluation, Toastmaster Nadia. It was very, very nice of you. Thank you very much for joining us once again as the role taker at the club. I'd like to call on our evaluator for Toastmaster Deepa's speech, Toastmaster Aparna Raja. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Toastmaster Deepa. Communicative chameleon, what a fabulously coined term. I haven't heard it before, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I learned something new, a phrase like that, a communications chameleon, wonderful. And I think this being the central message of your speech gave me a lot of hope when you started off, when you said communication chameleon, and you went into your speech. So I think centering around this is a beautiful take to have a speech on communication style, something which a lot of people keep doing over and over again. So this was a different take when you started off. Now, I have always looked up to you for the content quality. The quality of your content was top notch. And why I say that is because the genre of your speech was essentially informational, and carrying out an informational speech where you're explaining things that most of us here already know or are going to know very soon is a huge task, but you did that very beautifully with easy to understand examples, more importantly, relatable examples, everyday examples, and you broke it down into a very simpler way. It didn't become a sermon of sorts when you said, okay, direct is this and assertive is this. It didn't go like that. It was more of an example, a run-of-the-mill example. So I think that worked in your favor, and this comes naturally to you because you're used to building good quality content. Now, the analogy was fabulous when you started off. I'm going to quickly move to recommendations simply because you are a speaker at a certain level and you know what you are great at. But the things that we need to work on need more explanation. And so I just want to go into that. Now, the starting, like I said, was exceptional. When you spoke about your childhood and the chameleon and how you came into the speech was fabulous. However, if you notice, the ending was more motivational. You can't have one kind of communication. You have to have different flavors and things like that. Great. But my understanding is that whenever we have a motivational ending where we are actually asking people to come forth and do a call for action, there should have been something that must have happened, like an impact, a very strong impact must have been delivered in the body for me to call for a very strong closing or a motivational closing. And I think that impact was missing. Impact in here I'm talking about is not your speech impact, but the impact of those communication styles. The impact of the direct communicator. Example, you said that friend puts up that WhatsApp status. Don't say hi, hello, just get to the point. What has been the impact of such a person on you? Do you get scared of such people? Do you think, oh, he's a no-nonsense person? Or do they scare off people? What is the impact? But in reality, maybe they're a nice person. So these kind of impacts, these kind of nuances are something that I would probably expect to hear from someone who knows communication really well. Similarly, there was this other example about a house help that you came up and you said, you just give her instructions. You don't go into hi, hello, which is true, which is the reality, good or bad, it is the reality. But that makes us question, oh, so we don't care about her, which is a supportive style, or don't we think she's good enough for us to build a trust with her, which is also a part of supportive. So it becomes important that you clarify why that example there, because I don't have much time and I'm going to work every day and I probably communicate later, but most of the time this is a communication. So it becomes important to think of these examples in depth. That said, I think your content was top-notch, central message, fabulous. Just work on creating that impact if you want to have a motivational closing, and look into the examples when you're using it from different perspectives. Thank you very much. And back to you, Adarsh.
Thank you for that evaluation. And if I was a general evaluator, I would be absolutely speechless right now. Thank you for that delightful evaluation. Thank you for joining us as well. And I'm sure that is something for Deepa to work on as well. Last but not the least, I'd like to call on evaluator, Toastmaster Amrita to evaluate my speech. Over to you.
So, Toastmaster Adarsh, awkward conversation. Your title is all about your speech. The content and all the examples are directly related to the title of your speech. And you nailed it, bang on. Because title is the most important part of the speech, which gives audience to clear idea what they are going to listen for 5 to 7 minutes. So I really like that. And after that, I also like the structure of the speech, very well articulated. You did not fumble in between the speech. That shows your preparation was very good. Also, your hand gesture and you maintained the eye contact throughout your speech. Second, you started your speech with the role play full of awkwardness. So you give example through role play that was unique and that was very helpful for the audience to understand how the awkward conversations work. But apart from that, there are few recommendations for the next speech. First, you ask open-ended question. Try to ask close-ended question because you have a limited time. You have only 5 to 7 minutes of time. If anyone is going to take more than a minute to answer your question, then how can you cover all your speech within that time span? So it is a possibility that you will be disqualified. So make sure that you ask close-ended question. Second, your hand gestures were very good, but still try to give speech in standing position, because that gives a clear idea to evaluator the overall body language. And the non-verbal communication is more important in speeches than a verbal communication. So that's it from my side. I conclude my evaluation with excellent speech with powerful message, and just add the feedback in your next speech and you will rock it. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and example with us. Over to you. All the very best for next speeches.
Thank you very much for that, Toastmaster Amrita. I'm certainly going to put in a lot of effort before I deliver another speech. But without any further ado, I'm going to quickly call on the other evaluators that we have in the meeting today. We have a timer, we have a grammarian, and we have an R counter who has taken the shape of an AI. But firstly, I'd like to call on the timer for today's meeting, Toastmaster Shubhi, to present her report as a timer.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So today's timer report is as follows. Speaker number 1, Toastmaster Milind, took 7 minutes, 8 seconds. Speaker number 2, Toastmaster Joseph sir, took 7 minutes. Speaker number 3, Toastmaster Deepa, took 6 minutes, 53 seconds. Speaker number 4, Toastmaster Nazneen, took 7 minutes, 20 seconds. Speaker number 5, Toastmaster Adarsh, took 6 minutes, 45 seconds. Now, evaluators. Evaluator number 1, Toastmaster Mayur, took 2 minutes, 44 seconds. Evaluator number 2, Toastmaster Nadyan, he took 3 minutes, 36 seconds. Evaluator number 3, Toastmaster Aparna, she took 3 minutes, 20 seconds. Evaluator number 4, Toastmaster Dhwani, she took 3 minutes, 14 seconds. And evaluator number 5, Toastmaster Amrita, she took 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Over to you.
Oh, what an intricate report from a Toastmaster who's playing the role of a timer for the first time ever at our club. A round of applause to Toastmasters Shubhi. I'd like all of you to give a round of applause to all the speakers, role takers, and everyone from today's meeting, including Toastmasters Shubhi. Thank you very much for that very crisp and incredible report. Now I'd like to call on the grammarian for today's meeting, Toastmaster Richa. I hope you had a very euphoric meeting. Over to you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Adarsh. In my evaluation, I find out like a lot of good words has been used, which are victory, temporary, budge, predominantly, top-notch, nuances. And there are a few words where pronunciation could be improved. They are listen, use, advised, earthquake, and articulated. And I have seen a lot of people use the word of day, which is euphoria, like Milind sir, Joseph sir, Nazneen, and Nadia. So round of applause to everyone who have used the word of today in their speeches. And thank you, everyone. Back to you, Toastmaster Adarsh.
Thank you very much for that incredible report, Toastmaster Richa. I think Toastmaster Richa and Toastmaster Shubhi belong on the same boat because she's playing this role for the first time ever. Thank you for that incredible report. And by the way, I'd like all of you to direct your attention to the chat box because I've put up the link for you to vote for your favorite speakers and role takers. So please do oblige and vote for your favorite speakers and role takers. Now, before the theme for today, yes, I do see that we are running out of time. But before we totally put the theme of today's meeting, nostalgia, under the rug, I'd like to quickly come back and talk about what makes this theme very, very special, particularly to me, because it was not a long time ago, as I said, it was only a couple of days ago when I actually walked back into my childhood home and I happened to see some very, very interesting things. And by the way, I was secretly taking photos of certain areas in the house without the knowledge of my grandfather and a few others that were in the house at that time. And I cannot help but want to share some of it with you right now on screen for you to see what it actually looked like. And I'm pretty confident that it's probably going to bring back some of those memories yourself because a lot of things that I see that are so relevant. I'm not sure whether if I can share my screen. Okay, that's all right. Let me see, just 1 minute. Okay, you know what? I think I'm having some technical issues at this point of time. But I'll describe how it actually went. I remember I walked back into the house for the first time in I don't know how many years. I walked in and When I go towards the right, I see this tiny library, which me and my brother had built when we were very, very young. I think probably when we were as young as 8, 9 years old, we had actually built this library along with our grandfather. And to our absolute surprise, we actually saw a bunch of books. We saw a bunch of books from our childhood days, from my first grade. And by the way, as I sit here, I'm 24 years old. I'm 24 years old, run my own company, and this book was purchased by me back when I was 5 years old. Don't forget that. And then as I walk further, I see this table. I see this very, very old table that's over 40 years old. And by the way, that table is still in mint condition. It's a table that I used to actually sleep on, by the way. I used to literally sleep on that table. Why, you might ask? Well, I used to sleep on it because I loved sleeping on tables. And then when I look towards the left, I see this very, very old kitchen, a kitchen that I call the best kitchen in the entire world because it literally has everything. And even after my grandmother's passing, there's still something in there for everybody to eat. And then as I go further, I see this incredible chair that my grandfather himself sits on literally every day of his life. Now, what this probably tells at the end of the day is that none of us should actually forget where we started. Maybe some of us live in massive houses today. Some of us are earning a lot of money today, but I don't think we should ever, ever, ever forget where we first started. And that brings this meeting to a close. As your Toastmaster of the day, I'd like to sign off by handing it back to our presiding officer. And please do cast your votes because I'll be announcing the results very, very soon. Back to you, President Toastmaster Joseph. Joseph, say like unmute yourself.
Thank you, Adarsh, for leading the club in a very wonderful manner with the nostalgia and change the mood of each and every person. By the way, I find that all the role takers have done their best in either in evaluating or in speech. And whatever the thing that has been said is wonderful. You have put your heart and mind while speaking, also while evaluating. I thank once again for all those speeches and give a big round of applause to each and every person who participated. I'm so happy that we have done. But one thing is that we have missed the table topic. I think Pasha is now not here because he was always expecting that he has to speak on a table topic. I really feel sorry for him. However, this has been already organized by our VP Education, just to give you a chance to marathon speech. I therefore end this, adjourn the meeting of 7192. I would like to ask Jaya Raghuvanshi. Are you there, Jaya Raghuvanshi?